Hello everyone, and welcome to the first of two videos about building a 40-gallon vertical vivarium. I started with this 40-gallon glass aquarium. I marked on a thin sheet of styrofoam where I should cut it to fit in the tank. I used an electric styrofoam cutter to cut the piece the right size, and then silicone the piece of styrofoam to the inside of the tank. I made sure to press the styrofoam into the silicone. I then let this cure overnight. I repeated these steps for several other pieces of styrofoam to cover the rest of the inside of the tank. I made sure to leave a little space at one end of the tank, as this is where the substrate and false bottom will go later. With all the styrofoam in the tank, I can now attach the first piece of cocoa fiber liner to the foam. I applied silicone on the foam and pressed the liner into it. I situated this piece of cork bark and taped it in place for the next step. Used expanding foam to attach the piece of bark to the styrofoam and cocoa fiber liner. I applied more expanding foam to the back of the tank and pressed this piece of cork bark into it. I used more expanding foam to slowly build up the background and give it a more natural shape. The foam held the piece of bark in place, until it didn't. After cleaning up most of that mess, I continued to apply foam to the front edge of the tank. I taped another piece of cork bark in the tank and applied expanding foam around it. I stuck this little plastic flower pot in between the styrofoam and cork bark and started applying foam around it. The foam later expanded too much and completely covered the flower pot anyway. I kept adding cork bark and expanding foam until the background looked good. I stuck this Exoterra forest branch into the foam and applied more foam around it. I then added a small piece of cork bark and another flower pot and used expanding foam to attach it in the upper right corner of the tank. I later decided that I didn't want the flower pot in there. Opened up the space a little bit and stuck in this small plastic cup. It's actually a lid to one of those cans of expanding foam. I just needed a small watertight container in case I decide to add a waterfall or a drip wall later. I stuck this small piece of styrofoam above the cup and used expanding foam to hold it in place. Here's the background so far. After applying all of this expanding foam, I let it all cure and carved it down with a razor scraper. For some spots, it was easier or more effective to tear away the foam rather than carving it. Carving the hard outside surface off the foam not only makes it look better and easier to work with, but it also exposes the spongy interior to help silicone stick later. I applied more silicone on the foam and pressed a piece of cocoa fiber liner into it. I made sure to press the liner into the silicone well, or else it'll most likely fall off later. I then applied more expanding foam, let it cure, and then carved it down. I later decided I did not like the look of this piece of cork bark where it was, so I tore it off and then covered up that hole I just created. I put the piece of cork bark back in the tank along with another new piece and used hot glue to hold it in place for the next step. I applied expanding foam all over around these pieces. I added another small plastic flower pot and applied expanding foam on and around it. I added another flower pot to the left side of the tank and covered it in foam. Once again, I carved down another round of foam. I tore away the foam between these two pieces of cork bark because I did not want any foam sticking out. I only wanted a seal between the pieces. This is some foam still left over from when that piece of bark fell. This shows how easy it is to clean it off glass. Then I continued to add more cocoa fiber liner. I used rocks, cans of paint, and various other objects to hold the cocoa fiber liner down as I added pieces. After the silicone cured, I removed all the heavy objects from the left side of the tank and started siliconing liners to the back of the tank. Again, I used various objects to hold these back pieces in place while the silicone cured. Once that silicone cured, I removed all the objects and started siliconing cocoa fiber on the exposed foam. I applied silicone to the foam, smeared it around, and poured cocoa fiber onto that. I also made sure to press the cocoa fiber into the silicone to make sure it lasts long term. On some of the larger areas of foam, I also pressed orchid bark into the silicone. Of course, I decided to change the hardscape again by adding these 2 pieces of cork bark. I used a couple pieces of wood to hold them in place while I applied expanding foam around them. I let this foam cure. I tore and carved away any extra foam like before. I also carved down foam that I had added in a couple of other places too. Then I covered the rest of this exposed foam. Like before, I applied silicone, smeared it around, and then pressed orchid bark and cocoa fiber into it. I kind of just threw the bark at the silicone as it'll get pressed in when I add the cocoa fiber. I then took large handfuls of cocoa fiber and pressed them into the silicone. Oh yeah, that's why you should wear gloves while you're doing this. With this method, I covered up the rest of the exposed foam. Through this whole process, I made a huge mess. I tried to pick up most of the orchid bark and cocoa fiber by hand, but the rest had to be done with a vacuum. Here's the completed background. I really think it turned out well. There is still some exposed foam that I didn't cover up very well with the cocoa fiber, but I'll try to cover them up in the next video about this vivarium. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.